Ladies and gentlemen, we have a great one for you tonight. We have friend of the show, Jeff Barnes, is back. We're going to talk a little scouting, little recruiting, talk about a lot of different players. It's always a great conversation. I think you're going to like it. Also tonight, we are going to have we're going to be looking for your questions in the comment section. We'll use those, and you can also pick Jeff's brain. So without further ado, let's kick it off.
And that's the bottom line. You want a war? You're gonna get one.
The cream will rise to the top, oh yeah.
Now you want to get nuts? Come on, let's get nuts.
Hard work pays off. Dreams come true. Bad times don't last, but bad guys do.
Well, before we get started and before we bring on our special guest for tonight, I suppose I better bring on the rest of the bottom line crew, or hooligans, as I affectionately call some of them. Let's bring on Chad. Chad.
Hello.
You are the
Am I a hooligan?
maybe the number one hooligan.
That's fair. That's
fair. It's probably fair, and it probably does check out. You are correct.
It does check out. That checks
And
out.
the newest hooligan in the group, KJ. What's up, bud?
What's up, gentlemen? Good evening.
I mean, just another Wednesday night of talking football. I'm gonna tell you
One of
this.
these days, I'm gonna get first in something. I promise. It's all you people who love to root for the underdog. KJ's your guy right here.
That's right. That's right. We've had our guest on before, and I tell you what, somebody was asking me today, what we're doing for the show tonight, and I talked to him a little bit about it, and I said, when you think you know a lot about the game of football, when you think you know, and then you talk to somebody who is immersed in it as he has been, you find out you don't know a whole lot about football, but that's why I love bringing him on. So without further ado, let's welcome back to the show, Mr. Jeff Barnes. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you guys doing?
Doing good, Jeff.
Doing
How's it
real
going?
good. I was having this conversation today with a friend of mine. He played college football, and he said, ask Jeff where I was at on his big board. And I'm like, well, Tyler, there's a better than outside chance you weren't on his big board. He goes, what? He goes, I hit like a truck. He's not into 5 flat, 195 pound white guys. And I said, probably not.
Even if I was, the people that it would be looking for you wouldn't be.
Wouldn't be. That's right. That's right. Now, however, he was the middle linebacker on the 3-time NAIA championship Morningside Mustangs team. But I don't think any NFL teams were beating down his door, even though he was a very good player. But
Yeah.
when it comes to the NFL, the team aspect is out. Now we're looking at the individual. So, and obviously nobody would know more about that than you. So,
It's always. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. No,
It's always a thing, and I tell my young guys when we're talking about this, and I say, you guys want to play college, well, you have to understand you're playing against the best in your area now in high school. You want to play college, you're playing the best in the country, and that league up top is the best in the world. There's very few jobs there because that's the best in the world. Right. So if you don't make it there, doesn't mean you're not a good player. It just means you're not that good. Right. I've had the good fortune of playing against guys who were there. I left college way too early to get a sniff at that league. So when I played against those guys, they let me know that, yeah, I may have been great at the level I was at, but them dudes were there, and they made me work every time I played them. So, yeah, it's a different level.
We were talking a little bit before the show, and it made me think about I've heard, and I don't care if it's baseball or basketball or football, you will hear people say all the time, "Oh, he could have went D1. Oh man, I think I could have played in the majors. I had a heck of a fastball." Whatever the case may be. And I'm like, I just look at them, and I've talked to a lot of college coaches, being involved in high school athletics in the past, and like they just don't understand. They don't get it. Like you said, your kid may be good in your area, but that doesn't mean he's good in the nation and definitely in the world. Mm-hmm. It's just a whole different deal, and to come from, our area where it's a lot of small towns, Chad knows for sure. It's a lot of small towns, a lot of small communities, but I will tell you, and this is the first one that I do want to start with, because I think this is a good lead into what we're talking about. This player, and I think we all know him. If you didn't know him before this past year, you now know him now. This player grew up in a town of about 800 people. Okay. It's just south of here, about 12 miles. But because of his success, it has catapulted a lot of these smaller school kids into thinking they are him. And I'm sorry, you are just not him. So when I ask you about this player, before last year, did you have Cooper DeJean on your board? Where did you think he was going to go?
I knew he had first round potential. The year before he got drafted, I had him in that 2 to 3 range. His last year at Iowa, of course, pushed him up to first round potential. Excellent athlete. People don't understand the kind of athlete you're talking about with Cooper DeJean, and the fact that he's an equal football player to the athleticism that he has says it all. Guy that they like at safety, but he's so good at corner, you can't not play him at corner.
Right.
So when you have that ability to play two positions, I was a guy that could only play corner. Could I play strong safety? In a pinch. But no, this guy could start at strong safety. He could start possibly at free safety. I don't think he'll be a all-star free safety. He could be serviceable. But a guy that could play the corner very well, inside and out. And he's doing a great job with the Eagles doing just that. So I think when you look at Cooper DeJean, I had a lot of hype coming on him coming into his last year. And that last year just boosted him even higher. I was shocked that he fell out of the first round when he did. And him falling to the Eagles was just apropos for, the player that he is a steal for Howie Roseman. And he's been a steal all year long. You got Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, right? That whole group of corners they have there in Philadelphia. He's one of those guys that I liked a lot out of Iowa. They had a young man the year before when he came out that was excellent at corner. Riley, I forget his last name.
Riley Moss.
Yes, Riley Moss was an excellent corner. So he's another guy, mid-round guy that you go, man, if he has the upside to be really, really good as a starter. If not, he'll be a serviceable backup for many years to come. But yeah, Cooper DeJean was the next step up from that. He was a guy that was first-round talent. You saw that his last year at Iowa.
Well, the nice thing about it is I had the opportunity to watch him on the high school field, watch him on the high school basketball court, watch him on the high school baseball diamond, watch him on the high school track. And this is kind of, as we segue into our, what you see as guys coming in and so on and so forth, is when he was on any athletic field, court, track, whatever, you knew he stuck out. There was no doubt he was the best basketball player on the floor. There was no doubt he was the fastest guy on the track. I think he was a state champ in the 100, state champ in the long jump. Yeah. There was no doubt who was the fastest on the track. And so when I hear other people say, well, this kid X, man, you put that kid against what a D1 athlete like Cooper DeJean could do. Now, I'm not saying maybe that kid isn't D2. There's lots of good players in D2. There's good players in D3. There's good players at every level. But what I'm saying is when they stick out like that, if you don't stick out like that, or you don't pass, and maybe you've heard this term before, but I've heard it from several college coaches, especially D1 coaches, if you don't pass the eye test, your odds of getting there are very slim. Would you agree?
Oh, absolutely. I know I've talked to plenty of college coaches that say when they're looking at highlight films, if you don't grab them in the first 5 plays, they turn it off. They literally turn it off. So it has to be eye-grabbing, unpassable talent in the first few plays of your highlight. And if they're looking at that saying, and it's more than just measurables. We see kids now that are 6'3" corners, but not all of them are talented athletes. Some of them are just tall corners, right? So they don't really go on to the college level and play football. They play other sports. So I think what you're looking at when it comes to football is, especially now in the era of high school recruiting where you have to be special to get recruited by the big school because the transfer portal is so big, it's even more of a thing if you're not special. If you're a really good athlete, well, great. You can go somewhere else, and if you're that good, we'll find you later.
Yeah, right. KJ, do you have anything for Jeff? We'll just kick it off. Let's throw it around here. College-wise.
Which one I want to ask first? I guess a good one to start with. So obviously we see a lot, and this is true, I think, every year of the draft, guys that either are over-projected and end up don't produce on their first year in, or guys that fall under the radar who, come out of the cloud, so to speak, and bust out of nowhere. From your standpoint, are there any guys in the past 5 years you could say that when you looked at your board, you had rated higher than maybe the general rest of the populace did, and who proved to be, a dark horse, and then vice versa? Did you have guys that maybe you thought were going to be the next Messiah and fell really flat?
Ooh, I can go through a bunch of guys every year. I'll start with one. I just saw his name recently again pop up. And Equanimeous St. Brown was a guy coming out of Notre Dame I was extremely high on. Higher than I was on Chase Claypool coming out of Notre Dame, right? Both of these guys are big wide receivers that had all the tools, and at least Claypool had a good rookie year and a good second year before he became a total head case and went into the dust. Can't say that for Equanimeous St. Brown. He's never put up any stats, never made plays that made you go, wow, that's the player we saw at Notre Dame. He just never caught on at the NFL level. Meanwhile, his brother is all world. And he was better than his brother, right? When you look at the numbers when he was at Stanford and Notre Dame, Equanimeous' numbers were amazing. How he goes to the NFL and flounders and watch.
Oh.
Thanks, Spike.
I think we lost him.
Come back, Jeff.
I think we lost him.
Sorry. Yeah, I don't know what happened with my signal here. All right. So, yeah, it still baffles me to this day how that happened. However, just going back to last year, we talk about the quarterbacks from last year. I will pull up my actual rankings. I felt great about the 2024 quarterback class, and a lot of people did, and they told you who was this and who was that. I had Williams, Daniels, Penix, May, Nix in that order, top 5. All those guys went out there, played last year, won games, started and won games. Right now, Williams didn't have the winning record, but you saw he belonged. Daniels, he had the winning record, took his team to the playoffs, almost took his team to the Super Bowl. Penix came in late in the season. They're not going back to the $100 million guy, right? So it tells you how good he played. Drake May, despite the fact not having a winning record, they're committed to him in New England. They haven't been committed to a quarterback in New England like that in quite a while.
Wow.
Right? So he's changed their opinion of things. Bo Nix had an even better year than a lot of people gave him credit for. I thought he would take a little time to catch on. He caught on right away. But all of these guys were first and second round grades. The top 2 were first round grades. The other 3 were second round grades. The only guy I had a second round grade on in that class that didn't play last year was Jordan Travis, because I know he's on a redshirt year. Okay, a guy that, he broke his leg coming out in that last year at Florida State. They brought him in, gave him a chance to get healthy last year. He's going to come in this year, get some reps and learn. So I know he's more of a project. I still see the long road, the potential in him in being a starter down the road. Okay, so while they may have former Ohio State quarterback leading the way right now, any other time I'm spitting the kid's name out. Forgive me, I draw blanks on names when I get past the newest class. This is what happens to me every year. Justin Fields is their starter right now. Don't be surprised if they want to move on from Fields because he's not on a long-term deal. If they believe in Travis in his development, he may be a dark horse in the future. He may not.
Jeff, be careful how you talk about Justin Fields. You're going to have Chad coming through the screen.
I love Justin Fields. I thought he got a raw deal in Chicago. Hell, I thought Pittsburgh made a mistake not signing him this year.
Yes.
But nevertheless, I am not the GM for either one of those teams, so I am safe from the scrutiny. But nevertheless, I believe in those guys. I believe in Jordan Travis. I thought I saw a lot of great things from him in Florida State, enough for me to believe in giving him that grade. Just the injury caught him at the wrong time. Will he be the same player afterwards? I hope so. So, I know he was showing some setbacks. It's been a while, so I have to check up on his progress the last few weeks. I haven't really heard much about him in training camp. So, but the top 5 of that class, I had high grades on for a reason, and they fulfill those grades easily. So I'm when I look at my hits and misses, I can sit there and go, I believed in those guys. From what I saw on film, the film didn't lie. Some of those other guys I mentioned, the film lied a lot.
Chad, what do you got for Jeff? Anything on the college side?
Yes. So I was very intrigued with Nicholas Singleton, the running back from Penn State last year.
Mm-hmm.
And as a fantasy football guy, I was very disappointed he didn't come out. I saw him as one of the best running backs in the country last year. What do you think of him?
I like him a lot. I don't think he's going to be a day 1 guy when he eventually does come out. I think he's going to be a day 2, day 3 guy. Probably more if he continues to play the way he played, day 2. Like you see a lot of running backs are going that round 2, round 3. So I think he'll be in that range. I think one guy that's going to shoot up past him will be Jeremiah Love. If he has a great year this year, that'll be the one guy that they push past him. Maybe one more, but for the most part, I think he has that talent. He has that ability. He helps Drew Aller out a lot. And I think right now, the main thing for him is to stay healthy, not get overused, make sure he is doing things in the passing game as far as protection, catching the football to boost his stock. The more he does, the higher and higher he'll get on teams. Well, he's a talented running back. There's no doubt about it. But it's just a matter of the more well-rounded you are, the more value you are to NFL teams, and the higher you go. So he has to continue to show he's a lot more well-rounded than what he's shown so far. I think now he's a hell of a runner, and I don't think they really count the other stuff as being as high as his running ability.
Okay.
So when you're looking at, and we can use Singleton for example, or whoever, I guess, whatever player we want to, how far, let's say you're evaluating Chad and I, and as you're going through film, it looks real close. Like how deep? Quit laughing, KJ. We're old now. Come on, man.
I mean, this is a positive scenario for me.
Yes.
So let's just keep it down there, KJ. Don't be disrespectful of your elders. All right.
Good Lord, like Jeff,
I'm the old man on the show.
And I'm not allowed to laugh at
here.
that metaphor. Is ironic.
Laugh and smile. Jeff's like, okay, and you're just, I mean, come on. Anyway, let's get back to the serious part of it. So let's say we're right there. We're neck and neck. Like, how far down do you go to break down that player? Like, yep, you got the speeds. Do you go on the film to further break it down? Like maybe in pass routes, he's a little crisper. He cuts it. Like, how far do you go down to try to make a distinguishing call between players you feel like are right here?
What usually breaks the tie for me will be my scouting report, right? So when I look at a guy and I'm saying this guy's going to be this, and I think that two players are pretty close. I'll give you a prime example from this last draft. The running backs. I go to my running back grades here. I thought when you look at guys like Quinshon Judkins, Caleb Johnson, very close, right? So when I break them down, I go through all of the criteria we have on the scouting report. We talk about quickness, athletic ability, ability to run with power, contact balance, all of that stuff. We put grades on it. And I'm grading it all the way up from 1 to 9. Okay? So by the time I finish grading all that stuff and that grade pops up in the corner, it could be very close. And that'll separate them for me. And I'll look at the grades, and if I'm not satisfied with the grades, I think, you know what, is that accurate? I go back to the film again. And I look at it again, and I confirm on my report if I really feel that grade is accurate. There's times I go back to a guy's film, I go, no, I can give him a little more for that. I kind of undershot him on that. Or, no, I oversold that. I take him back a few. So the film is the ultimate thing for me. There are guys with the analytics model that are going to go, well, the numbers say this, the numbers say that. Numbers are only a part of it for me. The ultimate thing is when I put on that tape and I'm looking at all of those factors that I look at, if the tape says this guy is that good, granted, the opposition sometimes isn't as good as the other opposition that they face, but it doesn't matter. When he's on that football field, if he's fast, he's fast, regardless who he's facing. Right? So in the case of the two running backs I was just talking about, Caleb Johnson ended up my QB, my running back 4, and Judkins was my RB 5. And it was by 0.06. You had one guy with a 7.13 grade and the other one with a 7.07. And it was just a couple of numbers in their scouting report that separated them two. And when I looked at my final board and I looked at that and I said, do I feel good about those grades? I said, yes. Because I went back to the film enough times with those guys, and I watch when I put my scouting report and get my final grade, I look at a minimum of 5 games of film. So after 5 games, I looked at their film, looked at their combine numbers and their workout numbers, and said, I'm comfortable with those grades. That's where they ended up for me. And I think I was higher on Johnson than a lot of people were because Judkins went faster than he did. But you're in Iowa, so you've seen him. Yes. That is a deceptively fast guy. It looks like he's not running fast, but somehow he had a lot of long runs. And you don't break a lot of long runs if you're not fast.
His ability, at least what I saw, and obviously I'm not watching a film from a scouting perspective, just what I saw, his ability to get to the hole, see the crease, and explode beyond it was crazy. Because like you said, he on the football field, he doesn't appear to be a burner.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like if him and Cooper DeJean were to line up and run 100, like you know,
Well, he's not catching DeJean.
he's not catching DeJean.
Mhm.
But on the football field, he just had that ability to, here's the hole, here's a crease, I'm gone. You know,
He has this burst through the hole that's underappreciated. And what he is similar to how, and I know it all too well because I was a long strider as well. He's a long strider. When he opens up and gets fast, it is a long stride to get going. And it doesn't look fast, but he doesn't get caught often.
right?
And you know, some guys are just like that. You know, you don't have these long legs, but your stride is long. You cover a lot of ground with each step. And somehow you're building up a long speed compared to the guys that are quick accelerators and they go from 0 to 60 in 2.2 seconds and next thing you know they're out the door. He's not that guy. But you watch him on film, he gets through the hole, gets to the sideline, and that stride opens up and he doesn't get caught. And some of those guys are underappreciated like that. While Adrian Peterson was a long strider, he also had quick feet. So that stride may have been long, but it was faster.
Right. He's picking them
You
up.
know, some guys, it's just a long-legged run. Eddie George, long-legged run. But somehow when he broke in the open field, Eddie George didn't always get caught.
Right.
You know, so something with some of the quarterbacks, some of the running backs, you always get those guys when you get into a stack where you go, these guys are close. At the end of the day, I let my scouting grade decide where they're going to be on my board. I go to that scouting report, I pound that tape out, and I say, this is the grade that I believe from what I've seen. And that's kind of what separates them from me. I trust my eyes and my grade that I give them to do that part. Because you know, if you just say, this guy's a easy day one, day two guy, well, where is he on day one, day two compared to the other guys? You know, when I put that board together, my scouting mentors who had 90 plus years of combined scouting experience in the NFL say, this is the way we do it. That's how you do it. And I said, yes, exactly what I'm going to do.
I'm not going to reinvent the wheel. I'm just going to do it correctly.
No, not at all.
So Ed's not here, so we don't have to worry about any Hawkeye stuff. But Chad's a Big Ten guy, Nebraska fan. KJ's a Big 12 guy, Houston fan. And obviously I'm a Big 12 guy. So when you are doing the scouting, you're doing the breakdowns of the college players and everything, where do you see, the Power 4, Big 10, SEC, Big 12, ACC, where do you kind of see them fitting together? Like, has one conference just so exceeded the other? Has the SEC come back to ground a little bit? Or do you find more offensive players maybe out of the Big 12 than you do defense? Just where do you kind of see the conferences line up for you?
For me, when I look at overall talent-wise, to me, you have two. Okay, these are the two, and then you start to stack them behind that. When I look at talent, it's at the top, SEC and Big Ten. To me, they're right there. The amount of talent that's in those two conferences is just immense. And not just amazing talent, you're talking about NFL talent, right? Not far behind them, to me, is the ACC. ACC has a lot of talent. The teams may not overall, competitive NFL-wise, but when you look at some of the bad teams and the NFL talent they put out, you go, that team only won 4 games, but it has 3 guys that were taken in the draft. And you look at teams in some of the other conferences who win 4 games, they have nobody taken in the draft. They may get a guy signed afterwards, and it's like, what's the difference? Well, that talent is there doesn't mean the team is good.
Right.
So ACC has a lot more. Right behind them is the Big 12. Big 12 has a lot of talent, and it's rising with the new additions from the Pac-12 and all the guys they got from, some of the guys they got from the American, because UCF has some amazing talent. So they've absorbed a lot of good programs. Houston, I'm about to say Howard, Houston coming over adds a lot of talent to the Big 12. Rising program. I'm going to tell you right now, Houston, don't sleep on them. They're going to be a good program, and that takes a while to get acclimated to your new conference, especially when you're coming from what I used to call them the mid-majors. They were the mid-majors of college football in the American, the Conference USAs. Those are the mid-majors. So you go from that to the Power Four. It takes a period of adjustment. So those guys will get better. After that, you kind of get muddled, right? After those four, because you look at Conference USA, they got some solid programs, some programs, but they find programs. The Sun Belt got some solid programs. Mountain West got some solid programs. So there are conferences in that mid-major group. The American has got some amazing talent there, but when you talk about those top four, you got to say Big Ten and SEC. I know they like to put one over the other. No, they're equal when it comes to talent as far as NFL. Now, when you want to talk about team caliber, I'm putting the Big Ten over the SEC because the Big Ten has more quality teams in it than the SEC. But when you're talking about talent going for the next level, those two are the elite. When you talk about programs that you can get the most NFL talent from, you can pull them from Big Ten, SEC, and know you're getting good players that are going to come into your camp and make your football team better.
So we got a question here from Amanda. You do all of your, physical grading, you're watching the film, you're watching the tape, you're doing all that. How much does this question, how important is a player's attitude over skill when it comes to the NFL, when you're talking that transition from college to NFL?
Well,
does that factor?
It's factored in. It is factored in. So skill is going to be the bulk of their grade. However, we do have things in there that show your aptitude as far as attitude, when you're on the field, the effort you're giving, your ability to understand what you're doing out there on the field, how you apply things football IQ wise. But then there's also the character aspect, right? Is this guy a problem on the sideline? Is he a problem in the locker room? Does he have off the field issues? So we factor that in. There are guys who've had high grades who we pull them down the board because off the field stuff. Yeah, you may be up there, but I don't see him going there. Why? Because yes, he may have a second round grade, but here's a guy who's been arrested 3 times. He's been suspended for violating team rules. Forget the fact that he has 11 sacks in 8 games for this team. It doesn't matter. He's going to be a problem at the NFL level. Teams are going to see that. He's not going in round 1, round 2, round 3. He's a day 3 guy. He's probably going to go round 4, round 5, where they feel safe taking. So there was a young man for the University of Florida a while back, Antonio Callaway. High on him when it came to look at his tape. Not high on him, however, off the field. And I immediately pulled his tag and put it down. And so I said, why? I said, because his grade may have been this. But when you look at the off the field stuff, the stuff that I wrote in there in his scouting report, there's a lot of teams that are going to be scared. So the Browns took him in the 5th round. And I remember talking to one of their executives at the time about him and asking about him. Said, how's he doing? Oh, he's doing great. He's keeping his nose clean. He was gone a year later.
Right.
So, with certain players. Some players you don't see it coming. So, and unfortunately for me, I don't have the investigators the NFL have. So my research is going to be a little bit different from theirs. I have to rely on personnel and people that tell me things. And, and of course, news blotters catch everything. So if you're getting arrested, we're going to know about it. Right. So, but if you're talking to people on campus, you're going to get a good feel 90% of the time from about what the player's about. You're going to find out if he was a diva in the locker room, if he didn't do it, if he just showed up and played football, if he wasn't studying film and doing all the stuff he was supposed to do. You'll know that from people in the building. So there was a component in scouting reports where, yes, we do factor in attitude, effort, character. All of that does affect the scouting grades.
So it's very hard to escape these things.
That's the best invention for researching anything. It's bad if you're the person they're researching because they can find anything about you with that. But yeah, it's out there. And some people do a good job of hiding it. Some programs do a good job of hiding it. And unfortunately, you can't hide it from the NFL because they have people who will find it no matter what.
So I'm going to ask about a player for Chad. I don't know if Chad had this on his list. But this player has intrigued me because he was at Georgia and then he transferred to Nebraska. Where do you see Dylan Raiola? Is he an NFL player potentially?
I think he is with the way the offenses are now. I think the one thing with Raiola is he has to be more consistent. If he could consistently play at a high level, then he's definitely going to be a guy that goes higher. But right now, he's a guy you're looking at as a mid-rounder at best because there are peaks and valleys in his game. You think of Spencer Rattler. The last year was his best year, right? And he was still a mid-round guy because, plain and simple, the inconsistencies. The Saints still thought he was talented last year. They tried to start him. The talent is undeniable. Right. So with Raiola is the same thing. He's a talented player, but he's not overly consistent. He has peaks and valleys in his game. And once he can play consistently at a higher level, he will be a lot higher on teams' boards. That's the one thing. When you look at the guys at the top of boards, those are very consistent guys. You rarely see valleys in their game. It's usually consistent, high level performance.
You watch the games, Chad. Is Jeff correct?
Well, he was only a freshman.
Yeah.
So he's because last year I asked you about him and he wasn't even on your radar because he was a freshman and you had much older kids that you needed to evaluate. I would say he's pretty good. He has a chance. I don't know about his NFL future, but he's got a great attitude. Right after the season was over, Matt Rule goes to him and says, "So what's the plan?" And Dylan looks at him and is like, "What are you talking about, Coach?" He goes, because he knew that people were after him. He's like,
Right.
Are you gonna be here next year?" And he goes, "Where else would I be, Coach? I'm here. I'm here. I'm here to this program's in my blood. I'm here to resurrect this, help resurrect this place, not leave it." And so he was like, "Great." So then he goes, finds Dana, and asks Dana, the OC, well, because he was just came in halfway through the season. That's the other thing. His OC gets replaced halfway through the season, and says, "So what do you think about next year?" And he goes, "Well, it depends, Matt. What about the kid? What's the kid going to do?" And he goes, "He's here." And he goes, "Then sign me up. I'm here. I'll be here for a couple of years." And so he's anti-running after the buck and running for the shiny thing. This year, who knows about next year?
Right.
But I mean, the kid starts as a true freshman. He's deals with a terrible OC, an offense that's trying to come together. It'd be interesting to see how they replace the offensive lineman they lost, but he's a good kid. I think he plays well. And word is he was a little frumpy, and word is he really went after it, working out in the off season to try and put on some more muscle and lose a little of the baby fat.
I see him in the same way I see DJ Lagway. Lagway was inconsistent last year, but you see the talent. And I think with Lagway, if he continues to make strides and get better, he's going to be a guy that's highly sought after at the next level. but he's got to continue to grow. I think the one problem that Lagway has, besides the fact that he's young, so he's going to be inconsistent. Not at all young quarterbacks are, on fire the minute they hit the field. But I think the one problem when you look at Lagway and you look at Raiola, they're highly talented athletes at the position. But it's all about understanding the game. The college level, different from the high school level. The Power 5 level, way different from any other level in college football. So it takes a lot to adapt to what you're seeing week after week from program after program. And once they understand how to prepare at that level, to utilize their skills based on that preparation, they will be better players. They have to learn the mental side of the preparation of this game, because right now they've been able to out-athlete a lot of people for most of their lives. And that's one of the hardest parts about that. Why I say that they still have a chance at the next level is because of the kind of players that they are. We are a lot more forgiving now at the NFL level if you're not this overly talented passer, if you're this extra talented athlete. And I think now the way they're throwing the football underneath with the screens, the RPOs, and all the stuff that they're doing is making it a lot more friendly for these guys to come up to the NFL level and compete. So if they can go out there and become more consistent with the top level performance, I think they will have a better chance of getting that shot at the next level. But they've got to be consistent and be better students of the game when it comes to getting better as far as being on the field.
KJ, anything?
One I had, I guess, and this is more just a curiosity question. There may not be a definitive answer for it if it doesn't qualify. So from my own personal experience, and once again, speaking from the underdog kind of mindset or arena of the grander landscape, you look at guys like Greg Ward Jr. and Keenan Allen, who are both notable QBs, and then kind of transitioning to, wide receiver roles once they got to the pros. Is there anything y'all look for? I guess this may be isolated to the QB position, but is there anything y'all look for, pre that draft point in terms of their flexibility positionally? Or is that just something that happens kind of as an adjustment post-selection in the pros?
It depends on the organization. Some organizations will look at a quarterback that's more of an athlete than a natural passer and say, he can play for us. We can adapt our system. We can do. Some of them will just look at that and go, where does he fit best? Would he be better as a wide receiver? Would he be better as a DB? Would he be better, in a position that utilizes his skills more than what he's able to do? We've seen that with the Anquan Boldens and plenty of guys who were quarterbacks in college and they transitioned to receivers. With these guys, I think, so far from the small sample size, I think they can be quarterbacks. If they go out there and have a great college career, we gave Tim Tebow 3 years in the NFL before we said tight end, right? So there are teams that are willing to do the work with some of these guys at quarterback. Like I said, especially now that they've addressed a lot of spread concepts in the NFL offenses now. So they've made it easier to adapt college quarterbacks to the NFL systems. But the stuff they see defensively from NFL teams takes a lot more time to prepare. So if they can get that preparation part down at college, where you understand things that you're seeing in fronts and schemes that you can go to the line of scrimmage and adjust and adapt. So when you get to the NFL level, you're not being taught that stuff because they don't have time to teach it anymore. Part of the problem with developing quarterbacks at the NFL level is they need productivity like this now. If you're coming in, you got but a season to get it right and show us you can learn and produce. Otherwise, we may move on from you year one. So if these guys can show that at the college level, teams will be more patient with their development at the NFL level. So I think that's why it's up to the team. If they believe that they have more value at quarterback, then they will keep them at quarterback. If they believe that they can move them and get more value out of them at receiver, they will do that. But once again, that's up to the individual team.
Do you think that – all right, I'm going to phrase this a different way. Has the scouting style stayed the same and you guys are just in the situation where, hey, the team makes a decision or has the desperation to find that guy in the NFL changed any of your outlook as you're looking at those college quarterbacks? Because we know NFL teams are desperate for that guy.
Mhm.
So is it more we're doing our thing, it's the team's deal to either stretch a little bit or whatever, or has it kind of changed your way of thinking because those teams are so desperate for quarterbacks?
It's more of, once again, it's on an individual team basis, right? Like I said, I'm more of a traditional scout. To me, it's about film, it's about the numbers, as far as workout numbers, matching workout numbers with the film, all right? Then looking at things like analytics, and that's just another tool for me. There are people that look at analytics first and look at all that stuff second. Right? The numbers have to match for them. Right? The RAS score that shows his athleticism, then he's a guy we want. If you're a guy, the Tennessee Titans, if you can check all their draft picks, all those guys have high RAS scores. They believe in athleticism. Okay, there's some that'll do traditional scouting. What grade do we have? What do we believe? What do we have as far as his ability to show the quickness of grade, this grade? So things that we had on the scouting report that we looked at. Where was he on our board? Was he the best of that position at the time? Did we have better players on the board that were graded out higher? So there's different things that he have. Did we like all the traits? So there was traditional scouting, and there's kind of more the newer analytical style. Some teams believe in it, some teams don't. And you'll see that in how they do it. With the players now in the development, it's about the money, right? So if you're going to invest highly in a guy, they're not waiting anymore for year 3 or 4 to decide what to do with a guy, because by the time you get to year 3, if he's a first-round pick, you have to decide if you're going to pay him that 5th-year option, which could be upwards of $20 million, right? If you're not, if he's a guy that's round 2, 3, 7, who's got that 4-year deal, you're just talking about tenders. We're going to tender this in another year. So it's all about the money. Is he progressing enough to the point where we're getting to the end of this deal, this rookie deal? What are we going to do with him? They're starting to make those decisions based on their development in those early years of his career. If he's not developing, guess what? They've probably drafted or signed another guy that's probably going to push him off the roster. He'll get traded. We're seeing a lot of guys in their first and second round picks in their rookie deals getting traded by year 3. Just because teams are going, development's not happening fast enough. Let's get some kind of return on our investment. We can get somebody else in here that can compete. He's worth something for us, whether it's a draft pick or it's another player. Teams are not being as patient because they need more results based on the money that's being thrown around. With these draft picks, guaranteed money is going up now. You see second-round picks getting guaranteed deals. Money is always going to be the number one factor in the NFL, right? So when it comes down to it, you want to follow any move, it comes down to the money. But these young players with the draft, they may be on a scale, but the fact of the matter is there's still a money value. If you're getting closer to the end of the deal, are we going to pay this guy to stick around? Do we believe that he's developing fast enough? If not, let's get him out of here now and get somebody in here who's going to develop and help us. So that's a big factor, just as big a factor of anything in how these players are being dealt with.
So we're getting close to ending the college spot. So I'm going to put you on the spot here.
Okay.
I need 3, and of course this kind of putting you on the spot. Give me 3 can't miss guys in the 2026 draft from this year's class. And then give me 3 potential dark horses that maybe we're not thinking about, but maybe pay attention to this guy.
Okay. Well, let's start with Anthony Hill from Texas. If you watched the Demarion Overshones and the last few guys that come out of Texas, this is the next Texas linebacker that's going to come out of there and make some wow plays. So he's one of those guys that I'm really high on. Of course, Caleb Downs, safety from Ohio State. I loved Lathan Ransom. This guy was playing along with him. He's another guy I think is going to be an excellent young safety at the next level. Also, now people are waiting for me to say Arch Manning. I do not believe Arch Manning is coming out this year.
I thought for sure.
That is the only mention of Arch Manning you're going to get out of me this year, because I do not believe he is coming out this year. We've talked about Florida. We talked about DJ Lagway, but you got to talk about Tyreek Sack, edge rusher. So another explosive player coming off the edge. One of the reasons why Florida made a big comeback late in the season last year was because that defensive line came alive. This young man was one of those reasons. So when you look at 3 players right there that I'm really high on this year, you can start there. Then I'm going to talk about some guys who don't get talked about much, right? We talk about quarterbacks. Well, one of the most important things you got to do is protect them. Parker Brailsford from Bama, interior offensive lineman, guard, center ability. It's going to be a guy who's you're going to watch a Bama offense that's going to continue to move. He's going to be one of the reasons why. If you're going to talk about the draft, he's going to be talked about a lot. If he gets through this year healthy and continues to play well, he's going to be talked about as a potential first-round pick. Jake Slaughter from Florida. And once again, I'm talking about Florida guys. The program that I thought the head coach was going to get fired last year, but they had talent on the roster. And this is another guy we're going to talk about. Interior offensive lineman, has some size. You talk about 6'4". Little light in the butt, though, 294. Think they'll get him up to 300 pounds. Unfortunately, he had a defensive tackle who's here in Tampa right now who can't get the weight right because he was too big. So if they could
watching practice. He's watching
practice.
He's walking around.
And he was heavier when I saw him in January. Think about that.
He's lost 30 pounds.
Yes. So there's 2 guys. I guarantee you're not going on draft shows and they're talking about guys. They're not talking about those 2 linemen who are going to save somebody's quarterback and make a running back a lot of money next year. Those 2 guys are going to be some of them. Also, I want to throw a wide receiver out there, but I don't want it to be the easy ones. You could always talk about the Ohio State guys and the LSU guys, but Denzel Boston from Washington, right? Big frame wide receiver, big plays last year, going to make some bigger ones this year. I guarantee that.
So he's a dark horse. Look at that.
Oh, yeah.
I thought I was putting him on the spot, and it literally took him 6 minutes to just handle that with absolute ease.
His journal sitting right there, man.
He's like, yeah, I got this right here. Yeah. Your question is Doug. I got it. I get it right here. It's no problem right here.
I keep notes because I'm horrible with names, and I hate drawing blanks on names on air. So I make sure I keep my notes around me.
Yeah. So college-wise, guys, anything else for Jeff college-wise, or we're going to flip the script to the NFL?
No.
KJ?
Nah.
Okay. I had a few more things, but we're getting on time, and unlike Ed, I like to keep the show rolling. So before we go – listen, we have not thrown a jab at Ed this entire show. I figured that was the perfect time. We've got to step that up a little bit. Yeah. So we got to work some jabs into Ed a little bit. So there was a one jab. Before we go from a word to our sponsor here real quick, I just want to give a shout out to our little buddy Evan. If you've never met Evan, he's full of energy and he watches the show religiously every Wednesday. So Evan, love you, buddy. Keep watching The Bottom Line, and we will be right back after this. Okay. I think probably, and we have talked about it at nauseum, whether it would be how we feel about where he went or whatever, or, is he good? Is he great? Whatever the case may be, was it on his dad as to why things happened the way they did or whatever it is. But I think the elephant in the room when it comes to the NFL side is Shedeur Sanders. Okay. My feeling, and then I'll let Chad and KJ kind of give theirs, and then we're going to take your opinion. My feeling is this. You cannot tell me. I do not care. Throw all the bull away. Okay, I've heard the stories about, if they're true. He goes into Brian Dable and the Giants, and he's got this board game, and he took what they sent him and went like that. No, I want to do this. This will tell me a lot about your organization. Okay, throw all that out. Okay, throw it out. Not that it doesn't matter, but just throw it out. When I look at the Cleveland quarterback room, and I was telling you this before air, you got a guy my age. You got Kenny Pickett, who we do have a book on. You got a guy 4 inches shorter than I am. And you got Shedeur Sanders. I don't get it. I mean, Chad, make it make sense to me. I don't get it.
It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense that the man fell to the 5th round. Clearly, the NFL conspired to have him drop that far. Let's say he did do that to Dabo and the Giants. I mean, if you think about it, that franchise is a disaster. Why wouldn't he say, convince me to come here? I mean, that franchise is a mess. You can say what you want. Dabo can't get the offense right. He has one season where it's Daniel Jones run rampant, run all over the place. Nobody can tackle him. And then ever since then, they've been trash. I don't know how he's holding on to that job. He's an offensive genius, I guess. I don't know. I mean, I have a little attitude about this, Jeff, because I really like Shedeur. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of him. I think a lot of his dad. And does his dad give him a lot of bad guidance in the offseason? Oh, for sure. That's why he and his brother both fired him as their representative and hired a professional to represent them. Mm-hmm. So I think he's going to force them to give him a chance to start, because Joe Flacco
is my age.
Yes, he's old, and at some point he's been somehow working his way through, and maybe he will Joe Flacco them to a 10-7 season, and they scrape into the playoffs or something. I don't see it happening. And then Dylan Gabriel, I mean, he's a Smurf, and Smurfs typically don't do great, especially if they're not great athletes. Kyler Murray gets by because he's a phenomenal athlete. Dylan Gabriel is not that. He can't move around like Kyler does. And Kenny Pickett, we know what Kenny Pickett is. And then you got Dr. Zhivago out there, Watson, getting all the ladies. So he's busy doing that. So I think Shedeur, because they have to know. They're going to have to play him, because they're going to have to know, because they only got a second rounder in Dylan and a 5th rounder in him. So it's not big money if they just brush them aside if they don't work out this year. And they're going to have an early draft pick next year. It's going to be a new coaching staff because they're going to be bad. And that's my opinion. I'll just cut it short.
KJ?
I'm excited to see him get a chance. I mean, I think it is, as you already stated, ironic that he has been so limited with practice reps. I know that's the biggest thing I've seen amongst articles and such that have been posted online, is how a lot of people are noting his very limited or low number of preseason camp reps, whatever. So maybe that changes as the season goes on, or they make a full 180 and he gets more preseason snap time than we're expecting him to considering how much he's not had in the practice periods. But I don't know. Hopefully you wouldn't just draft a guy and never give him the time of day. I mean, stranger things have happened.
But the thing I don't understand, KJ, is you got 5'11". I think it's 5'11", right, Jeff? Dylan Gabriel?
Yeah.
6 foot in high heels, maybe.
I have his exact measurements if you give me
Isn't he a lefty also?
Yes, he is a lefty.
Yeah. So that's like a double whammy. Flip your whole offense around.
I'll say this, speaking from the parallel of the UFL and kind of as a fan, what we saw in highlights of our spring camp pre the season earlier at the beginning of this year, I was on the camp of Jalen McClendon is rightfully so our number 3 QB because all the highlights they were showing in camp, he literally was throwing interceptions to our defense. On the flip side, the limited clips we have of Shedeur, he's throwing dimes, hitting these guys for dots down the field. It looks like a stellar dude. So obviously the layman fan's going to look at that and go, why is this guy not getting more reps? But we might not be seeing the other 75% of the, actual real reps that are occurring where he's sucking it up or something. I don't know. I'm just, I'm theorizing based on the tangible experience we had just earlier this year.
Yeah. The other part of that is, and we talked about this last week, Jeff, was during the draft, every pick, they show them in the war room and they're all high-fiving each other and slapping each other on the back. And yeah, we got it. We got the guy we wanted. And when they picked Shedeur Sanders, they were all like this.
Yeah.
They didn't want to take him.
Yeah.
The coaches didn't want to take him.
I guess we have no choice.
Yeah.
So
Jeff,
anyway,
so what's your opinion?
Make this make sense to our viewers or anybody as to how we are where we are. I mean, I get it. Draft party, legendary, and okay, I get that. Okay, that's a little bit of dad, but dad, I think, and I love Deion, but dad has already had a Hall of Fame career.
Yes.
So I think a lot of that was dad's Hall of Fame projecting onto his sons.
Yeah.
So let's filter all that away. How does this make sense?
Well, it's kind of hard to make something make sense that doesn't really make sense. So
Right.
I will explain it, but I can't promise it's going to make any more sense when I'm done because, it's like kind of explaining Dumb and Dumber in sensible terms. It doesn't really make sense, but, I can explain it to you.
But it doesn't make sense.
Yeah. So, but before I get on that, Dylan Gabriel, 5'10" and a half.
No.
All right, his official measure. So, the scouts have that stuff. But it starts with Shedeur in the draft process, right? So, he had a great season. They didn't win the bowl game. They got blown out by BYU. That's fine. We've seen that happen before, right? You got to get drafted anyway. However, it gets to the draft process. All right. Well, if you're a top pick, some of you guys with questions, you're going to show up to one of the big bowl games. He skips Senior Bowl. He chooses the Shrine. Okay. So, all right. So scouts start flying down to the Shrine. We want to see Shedeur throw. We want to see Shedeur this. We want to meet with him. He gets there, meets with a couple of teams. I'm not practicing. When players start doing that, I'm going to tell you, most scouts see that as a red flag. Now, it's not always a red flag. Sam Darnold sat out a lot of stuff, right, including the combine. He didn't throw at the combine. Some do. If you're a player that they assume because he has the same. When you look at him in Shiloh, people don't realize that, yes, they're close in age, but Shiloh is a lot closer to his mom than he is to Deion. Right? And Shedeur is Deion's clone. Okay? He is very close to Deion. All right. Now, he may not have
does a great impression of his dad, too.
Yeah. but he is very much. He talks like his dad. He walks like his dad. He has a swagger. That is Deion in quarterback form. All right. So when you're watching him, it's like dealing with Deion. So if Deion says, "Yeah, I don't think you should work out. I think you should go there, meet with him, and leave," because Deion's thinking, "How could they pass on my son? He's what he did at Jackson State, then to go to Colorado and do it. He don't have to do nothing. He's your guy." In Deion's mind.
Right.
But Deion also knows that these guys don't think like you. But Deion has always been able to get away with it because he was Deion. He was special. There's never been another Deion Sanders since.
No.
There are quarterbacks better than Shador. So Shador, by trying to listen and take that advice that was bad for him, kind of hurt him in the process. It's one of the reasons why he ended up being drafted when he was drafted. So the sitting out of the shrine and not throwing it all, not doing anything there, left a bad taste in their mouth. Then you go to the combine, you have the thing with Dable and those guys. Although that made it happen on the visit. So
the visit, yeah.
That happened on the visit. So, but at the, he has that Deion kind of, swagger that kind of rubs some people the wrong way because they don't understand it, right? So that it was okay when it was Manziel, we understood it. We don't understand it with Shador, Yeah. So some guys just don't know how to react, and that goes back to some guys we said it on the draft show. Some guys in those evaluation rooms don't understand black athletes. They don't. Okay. Yeah. When a guy who's cocky and brash, that's a black athlete, they see it as an attitude. But like I said, when it was Manziel, they loved it. Right? Oh, he's cocky, he's brash. We love it. Baker Mayfield, he's cocky, he's brash. We love it. Shador Sanders, it's a little too much for us.
Yeah.
All right. So some guys don't translate to the guys that are evaluating him. So he automatically shuts off the guys that he doesn't translate to. Cleveland sees them and they go, well, we got Watson. We've had Manziel. We can handle him. And then they hear what happened with the Giants. And teams, when they want to talk and share information, they'll share it. Right? So there's a lot of times they hide stuff from each other. Some things they don't. Right? So when they have certain prospects and they don't really feel them, they'll let you know. Unless they think there's an advantage to not letting you know. So it got out. If it got out to the media, it definitely got around to other teams. So he does his own special pro day, because if you remember now, they're part of the Big 12. Big 12 mandated that everybody does the Big 12 pro day. You're not allowed to have your own, but you can have a special workout. So they did a pro day that was considered a special workout where he
right.
But he didn't throw at the Big 12 pro day. He didn't throw at the combine. He didn't throw at the – so because he pushed all of that stuff off and moved the goalpost to his one day, and people came out of that with different narratives about him throwing the football, his stock went like this. Yeah. Now, if you were a believer in the film, it didn't really affect your grade any. I didn't think – when I saw him throw at the pro day, he threw just like he threw on film. He threw fine to me. However, there were people that wanted to say, oh, there's too much air on the deep ball. Russell Wilson made a career out of having a lot of air on the deep ball, and as long as you put it in the right place.
Right.
All right. So once again, there's, once you get to the point where people can now write what they believe is the case about you, and that's what we're looking at in that draft room, you're at the mercy of what they believe. So when he started falling in round one, I'm like, well, the Giants are in the back end. They can still get him. And once Dart went off the board, I said, okay, he's day two now, unless somebody jumps up in the back end to one. That didn't happen. I knew the writing was on the wall for him when Tyler Shark went to New Orleans. That was the writing on the wall, because it was like, okay, now Cleveland, what are you going to do? Oh, Dylan Gabriel.
Yeah.
You're going to fall a good ways now before somebody takes your turn. And when it finally became his turn, that's what it became. So give me 1 second. I had to hit the mute button, so I'm not coughing. So you get to training camp now. Well, because where he is, he's not going to be QB1. He's not going to be QB2 because you already traded for a guy, right? So they were year 1 and 2. He was either going to be 3 or 4. Once they drafted Gabriel ahead of him, he was automatically 4. And Watson's not in the picture, so we're just going to leave it at that. So when they say he's QB4, well, that makes sense. That's where you drafted him. You drafted him to be QB4. He's your project, okay? And he's going to start this week. But the only reason he's going to start is because Gabriel's beat up, because Pickett's beat up, and they don't want to put Flacco out there for any extra reps. So they signed Huntley. He's going to start, and they'll bring Huntley in, and he'll go out there and he'll either look good or bad, and they can get to say, well, see, we told you he wasn't ready, or wow, he was impressive. That's why we took him. All right, because we believed in him. But they're going to let his play this week tell a narrative for him, and they get to go by the way with it. But it started with the draft process. It led up to this point. We're not seeing all the reps in practice. He's had some great reps. He said, I've seen some bad reps from him too, but you expect that. And what I urge fans to do is, yes, take in the reps from the scrimmages and the practices. Don't put a lot of stock in it.
Right.
There are a lot of guys that look like all Pro Bowlers in these practices. They can't stop this dude. He goes in a preseason game, and he is as clear as a window that's just been Windexed, okay? Because plain and simple, you can't see the guy. He's just not there, all right? So it happens. When you're practicing against a guy day in, day out, you know how to beat him. He knows how to beat you, and you're going to get some highlights there. But when you start lining up against guys you don't face routinely, if you're not out there performing and you're not showing that you're better than that guy, it's real easy to disappear. So he could go out there tomorrow night. I think they're playing Thursday night or Friday night. I forget which night they're playing. Yeah. But he can go out there this week. It looked great against the team's backups in preseason. Doesn't mean he's going to look great in the regular season when the stars are out there, when they've game planned all week, come up with schemes just for that week. There's no scheming in the preseason. It's basic on basic. Just guys trying to learn a system and show they could play football and they have some kind of value to this football team. And I'm hoping he does well. I believed in him. Like I said, he was QB2 on my board. But he's in a situation in Cleveland where they're literally throwing mashed potatoes at the wall. Right? They signed the guy for $200 million. It hasn't worked out. He hasn't stayed healthy. When he was healthy, he hasn't played like the guy he was in Houston. He had the scandal before he got there. They've gotten past all that, and yet the results have not matched the contract. They can't move out from under it. They have to eat it. And the guys they got behind him are a guy that's old, who was never a top 10 quarterback when he was young, a guy who was drafted in the first round that wasn't a first-round talent, and 2 rookie quarterbacks who they don't have a clue what to do with.
The thing that I think – go ahead, Chad.
What I find interesting is my feeling is in this preseason game, I think they're Cleveland I think they want him to play horrible.
Mm-hmm.
I think they want him to play horrible. That's just my feeling, their reaction, their look when they drafted him. I think the coaching staff is upset that they had to take him, and they want him to fail so they can say to everybody, see, we told you. And it'll be interesting to see, because I don't think he's going to fail. It's going to be interesting to see what they do when he succeeds. Because Tom Brady was one of his mentors. Tom Brady, his dad introduced him to Tom Brady when he was pretty young in high school, and Tom worked with him a lot. And Tom told him, no matter how many reps you get, you make every single rep the best you can. He goes, when I was at 5th string at Michigan, I got 3 reps, and they were the best 3 reps that anybody had at that practice. And so I think that kid, they put a massive chip on his shoulder. So now you've got the cocky, brash, and he's pissed and wants to prove him wrong. I think that's an interesting combination, and I don't know if Cleveland has the sense enough to capitalize on it.
He had one wide receiver in college that's starting in the NFL right now, and that's the guy that got drafted ahead of him in Jacksonville. Okay, who was still talking about whether he's a corner or a receiver. I had him higher as a receiver on my board, and Travis Hunter, right, is starting right now in Jacksonville at receiver and right in number 2 on the depth chart at corner, which is how I had him graded. But I think when you look at it, other than that, all the other guys he threw the ball to are fighting for jobs. They're fighting for roster spots, right? So they weren't highly touted. You look at what he did with that kind of talent. We talk about the quarterbacks, Will Howard and these guys at Ohio State. We talk about, the quarterbacks down at, in Michigan and Washington when they had all these receivers that are coming into the league in the first and second and third round. The LSU quarterbacks, even with Daniels, right? We talk about Nussmeier and the guys he's throwing to. Okay, those are some dudes,
Right.
right? He wasn't throwing to a bunch of dudes. He was throwing to a bunch of guys, and a dude, right? And he didn't have any tight ends, right? The tight end didn't exist in that offense, right? It was all receivers and a running back, right? So he had to do a lot. And I think sometimes the hero ball hurt him, right? He took a lot of punishment because he held the ball too long. He had a lot of intentional grounding penalties because he threw the ball away late or got sacked, So he took a lot because he didn't have a lot. And instead of seeing that as a strength, they looked at every one of those things as a weakness, right? Because they said, he holds the ball too. He had to. He had to wait for guys to uncover. He had to buy time because there was one guy who was playing most of the snaps on defense and most of the snaps on offense. And if he wasn't on the field, then it was just a bunch of guys.
Yeah.
Because I had Jimmy Horn Jr. here at USF, and he was just a dude. And he went to Colorado and became just a dude. They could make some plays, but it all depended on him holding the ball extra long for those guys to uncover 90% of the time. Now you want him to throw on schedule. Now you want him to do all that stuff. That's great. You could teach him that in the offense. He can learn it. He's shown the ability to learn it. So you should feel better about him than you do. But they don't. This whole process, they believed in what we saw. Like I said, there's a disconnect in how they saw the player personally, and they don't see it on the field. And I think that's part of the problem. That's why he's at 4. Because if you come into what I've seen from camp so far, yes, he should be higher than Gabriel for what we've seen on the field. He's not. Yeah, he should be higher than Pickett from what we've seen on the field, but he's not. Right? So they obviously believe in what they evaluated during the draft, right? They don't, if they took him when they took him, just because he was there, shame on them, right? Because if I look at that draft board and I'm sitting there and I'm going, wow, he's still here. Let's take him. I'm excited. I'm not sitting there going,
yeah.
It almost seemed like it was forced. Well, we had nothing else left that we liked. And if you feel that way, then trade back and give the pick to somebody else. Don't take the guy you don't really want because it never works. You don't have patience with his development. You're not going to give him the chances he needs, and he's going to flounder. You're going to point the finger at him, and it was never the guy that you wanted in the first place, right? It's like that when guys will draft a quarterback and the head coach doesn't want him, right? He's not my kind of guy. And he goes there, and that quarterback never gets the develop he needs because the coach doesn't want him. Well, if that's the case, you're going to do that to this kid, and it's not fair. It's not fair to him.
The thing that irritates me the most about this is because I really do subscribe to the NFL standing for the no fun league. You know what? A guy like Shedeur is fun. The brashness, raise your hand, probably other than Jeff, if you ever purposefully watched a Colorado Buffaloes game before Deion Sanders got there.
Only if Nebraska was playing them.
Right. I said other than Jeff, only if Nebraska was playing them, only if Iowa State when they were in the – that's it, right? That's it.
I was watching when they had Steven Montez at quarterback. It wasn't good, but
Right.
I was watching.
But what I'm saying is Dion gets there, Shador gets there, and there's flair, and there's some over-the-top stuff, and all of a sudden, an Iowa State fan is like, what time does Colorado play today? Are they on TV? Of course they're on TV. I'm watching it. What is it with the NFL and guys like this that they don't – I mean, that's as a fan, as just a fan, that's the type of stuff. Who didn't love Dion going down the field? I mean, what is wrong with that?
Well, I think I don't like to go here very often, but I think Jeff was right on the money. I think it's because he's black. You have had
So
many
was
white
Dion,
quarterbacks.
And we
Yeah,
all
but he
loved
wasn't
it.
he wasn't a quarterback. He's not the
That's
face of the
true.
franchise.
You're right. He's
He's not
a
the
good point.
face of the franchise. The
Valid
NFL
point.
has come a long ways, but there's still some of that. I hate to say it, but it's true because they have a whole host of quarterbacks come up that have acted in brash and in whatever ways,
Or
and it's
said,
fine.
I'm not playing for this team or that team, Eli Manning.
Yeah.
I mean,
His father
know,
was just involved.
John
Yeah.
Elway did it.
Yeah.
Eli did it. It's been done, and you've had quarterbacks who go out and cause lots of you mentioned him all the Browns quarterbacks.
Manziel, yeah.
Manziel,
Mayfield.
What's the difference between Mayfield and Shador? Not a lot. What's different is, and I hate doing this, I don't like going there, but sometimes
But that's what it feels
just
like.
kick you in the face.
That's what it feels like.
Well,
I
when
love
you go
that.
through all the factors, you're right, Chad. I mean, you went through everything. You couldn't find anything else but that. That's how it is, right? We've talked about it a million. And let's go. You talked about the Mayfield comparison. Let's talk about Manziel, right? You look at the two in college. Now, Manziel won the Heisman. Shador didn't, right? But when you look at, he played at A&M. He played at Colorado. He won more games. He beat Bama. Yeah. Okay, but what went wrong with Manziel? It didn't go wrong with Dion. Dion was never suspended for violating team rules. He was never a guy that was out there taking stuff he wasn't supposed to be taking at the time, right? The reason why he was saying the money Manziel,
he's not doing
yeah,
gestures and everything at the opposing teams and
yeah, when a guy's in a time when athletes weren't supposed to get paid, throwing up the money sign, right?
Yeah.
Taking money for autographs, and only got suspended for a half, right? They chased the kid from Ohio State to the NFL to suspend him.
Terrell Pryor.
And autograph stuff, right? But he only got suspended for a half, right? And we knew that wasn't the only thing he did, but that's all they got him for. And that came to the NFL with all that baggage, and you talked about the partying and all the stuff he was doing. There was none of that with Shador. Shador liked to play video games and stay home.
Yeah.
And this guy went in the first round. This guy went in the fifth. And what was the difference?
Yeah. The picture of Manziel being passed out over, I think, a coffee table the night before they play Alabama.
Yeah.
How does that slip through the cracks? It didn't, and he was a first rounder. Like it when you piece all those things together, and Chad's right. The only way to make it make sense, and you said it more eloquently, was they still don't understand the brash black athlete.
Or in general.
Quarterback.
Quarterback
especially.
Yeah, and quarterback especially.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you this. If you guys ever hear the Des Bryant interview story?
I haven't heard it, no.
No, okay. So Des Bryant, during the draft process, goes to interview with an NFL team. If there's any of that team fans, I won't disappoint you by mentioning the team name. All right. That executive is no longer in the league, so be happy about that. All right. So he goes in there and he basically asks him in the interview if your mother was a prostitute. why would you ask an athlete if his mother was a prostitute? First of all, you've investigated his family. You would know if his mother was a prostitute.
You would think.
Why would you ask him that? You know, and
I do remember hearing that. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So why would you do that? If you understand the athlete, you don't have to ask the athlete that. First of all, you don't want to insult said athlete by asking him about said mother doing said things. Number two, if you have your investigators out there doing it, you know it's true or not. But nevertheless, you don't do that in an interview. Okay. Do you say, in an interview, do you ask, if you have any questions for me, do you think it's okay for the athlete to ask you, do you like cross-dressing? No, you don't want the athlete asking you that. So why would you ask him about what his mother does or doesn't do?
And outside of that, I see no validity in it. Has he been in trouble? No. Is he a great athlete? Yes. Can he help this program? Yes. What in the hell does it matter?
Unless you plan on hiring his mother, it doesn't.
Right. Right.
So,
are you thinking about hiring her to be a manager, or what are we doing here? It doesn't even matter.
Jeff, would you say there's any reality or truth behind the Power Four conference biases being held even by, people in the recruiting field, if you will, beyond the actual stats and review of the players individually?
mm-hmm.
I mean, that's the only, I guess, to play devil's advocate on behalf of the Browns, that's the only thing I could still see being like the notch against, Sanders over a Manziel, to Eric's points. Like, well, Sanders, to his discredit, didn't beat Bama. It's like,
yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I mean,
But
I can see.
and I'm in the Sanders camp, so I'm just saying that's
I
trying
can
to
see
get
where
some
some people
minimal
would say that.
justification for why contextually they would be doing what they're doing.
Yeah, Big 10, Oregon,
Big 12.
Big 12,
Yeah.
Colorado. Yeah, I can see somebody saying that. My thing is, there are GMs that do think that way. If you're a Power 5 guy, you get carte blanche over everybody else when it comes to draft time. They're going to look at you first, no matter what round it is.
Mhm.
We've been baffled for the last 4 years how we could have at least a dozen HBCU graded players not drafted, but yet the minute the draft is over, they're signing here, they're signing here. So obviously they were on teams' boards, but they don't get their name called. Why? Because they're HBCU players. We've done this whole thing now where we have a whole bowl game and a combine just for HBCU players, and you've seen no increase in them getting drafted. You're still maybe getting one or two in a draft. So there are GMs that do think that way. If you're not Power 5, if you're not Group of 5,
I don't care.
then you have to be special to get drafted. And we did see a couple of HBCU players in the last couple of years get drafted here and there, but you've gone plenty of years with none of them getting drafted, but yet they end up in training camps and stick on rosters, and all of a sudden you go, this guy came from this. Why didn't he get drafted?
Well, a lot of times, correct me if I'm wrong, if you're going to be in the 7th round, you just as well be an undrafted free agent. That way you can choose where you go. You might not be able to choose a team that's better fit for you. You maybe not as deep at the position you're going to play, things like that. Is that fairly? I've heard that before, and it makes sense. But there is the stigma that you didn't get drafted at all, and I understand that.
Well, it doesn't really create a lot of security being drafted late in like the 7th round compared to being an undrafted free agent. However, it's slightly a little more secure, right? Undrafted free agents, 90% of the time, unless you've outplayed that guy that's been drafted, you're going to be a guy that they hold tight. If they can't keep you on a roster, they're going to release you, put you on a practice squad.
Get that.
Is that Arian Foster?
Yeah.
Arian Foster.
It's like I got one off record I know that went under.
I recognize that 23 anywhere.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you're drafted late, it is slightly more security than the guy that's undrafted, unless he just outplayed you. But it's the contract is the main thing. You want the signing bonus. You want to be signed with some kind of security. You get more of a choice in where you go. Plus, you get negotiated better signing bonus as an undrafted free agent than you do if you're drafted late. So that is the one good thing about it. But once again, you get there, you better have this great. Some drafted guys get to have a year or two of a mediocre camp because they still have a plan for that guy. If you're undrafted, you have to show out every year. So there is a little bit more security in being drafted. And that's one of the reasons why when we talk about it, it's like, give them first of all, it's an honor to get your name called. It's an honor to be there. But it's even more of an honor to get your name called. It says we want you. You know, we really wanted you. You know, so when those kids don't get their name called, they're sitting there like, man, what did I do to not get my name called? And then you're going, yeah, we're going to sign you afterwards. It's like, yeah, but also if I was that good and I was on your board and you had a chance to draft me, why'd you take the guy from Iowa that had 6 tackles all year and most of them were on special teams and you still called his name? You know, I like to call some of these defensive players they draft in the 7th round Powell sprinkles. You know, have you ever watched the Powell and the guy that dives on top, he's the sprinkles on the Sunday? Well, he's the sprinkle on the top, right? If I'm drafting a Powell sprinkle in round 7 and I had a guy who had 80 tackles at an HBCU school and 2 interceptions, I'm taking the 80 tackle guy and signing the Powell sprinkle because the Powell sprinkle is going to be cheaper to cut and put on my practice squad. But because he played at Iowa and he played at Jackson State doesn't mean that he's always going to be better. As we've seen now, especially with recruiting, guys slip through the cracks. Some guys don't get the offers, but doesn't mean they're not good. You know, how many guys are getting drafted that coming out of high school were 0 stars? A lot. And a lot of 5-star guys are bouncing around from school to school. I was signed 5-star to high school, but you weren't really 5-star. And now we're starting to see that, you know? Right. So it's, you know, there's a lot to it and you have to trust your eyes. And one of the reasons why I say if you're doing the work and you're putting your board together right, you can come into round 7 and go, I can't believe this guy is still here. And for the last 3 years of the draft, I've been sitting here day 3 going, why is he still on the board? Why is he still on the board? And you're watching good players go late. So if they're trusting their evaluation, if they're not scouting the helmet and they're scouting the player, they're going to find the players that they need. Cleveland, in this case, went by their gut. They didn't trust them because of all the stuff they saw and all of that. At the end of the day, if you trusted that film and if you understood the player, if you understood his father, you would have felt better about him than you really did, right? Yes, he could be loud, he could be brash, but he's also young. You had that with Baker. You chased Baker off because he felt he couldn't hold the locker room. He had to learn a lesson. He learned it in Tampa, though, didn't he? So he learned.
Yes.
This guy, if he's mentored right, can learn. You brought in a coach as a quarterback guru. Well, guess what? If he's a quarterback guru, he should be able to train quarterbacks, not just his kind of quarterback.
Yeah.
And that's part of the problem. They have too many guys that are billed as quarterback gurus, but they're only gurus with their kind of quarterback. I only train pocket passers. I only train big-armed guys, field generals, right? They can't train the guy who's an athlete that's a scrambler that can move around and create plays, but I can only coach the guy that throws on schedule and throws where I want him to throw.
It's funny you say that, Jeff, and this is the argument that I made. I made this twice with the Bears, and maybe it's because I overanalyze it, or maybe because I'm just hoping against hope.
You're used to that guy.
Yes. What I'm saying is this: the first year. And Chad helped me out. For some reason, I could see his face. I'm kind of like Jeff. I'm losing the name. UNC, white kid. We drafted.
Yes. Mitch Trubisky.
Mitch Trubisky. Yeah. Okay. I'm not making excuses for Trubisky, but what I'm saying is this. His rookie year, that kid played his nuts off, scrambling all over the field, making plays on his feet and then with his arm. Rush for, I don't know, how many yards, how many first downs I watched him. I watched every game that year. Year 2 comes, And it's like they told him, listen, pretend there is a stake in the middle of the field that's 5 yards away from your offensive lineman, and you are staked to that point. And he just all of a sudden wouldn't run. He just all of a sudden wouldn't scramble. He'd just sit in that pocket and die there instead of doing the things that I thought he did as a rookie that I thought, wow, man, I didn't agree with them drafting where they did, but maybe they saw something that I obviously wouldn't see. But then in the second year, it was just like it's like they said, you're not a scrambler anymore. You've got to learn to pass from the pocket. It was like, I felt like they were trying to take a square peg in a round hole. And I also felt like that, even though I saw some of the weaknesses of Justin Fields, his inability to see the field, his inability to locate that open receiver. But I felt like they did a little bit of that to him too. His rookie year, rushing all over the place, getting first downs with his legs, putting pressure on the defense when he got outside the pocket, all those things. And then in year two, there's that stake again. You've got to stand in the pocket, Justin.
Mm-hmm.
So I think what you're saying makes a lot of sense to me, just as a Bears fan, and I'm sure Chad probably thought the same thing. Why are we changing these guys' quarterback superpowers to make them fit? Like you said, I'm a quarterback guru. I know best. Well, wait a second. Here's his talent. Trubisky, moving on his feet, throwing on the run, those types of things. Why can't you change to allow that quarterback to be that guy? And unfortunately, I don't know the guy in Cleveland, what his true philosophy is, but I see Sanders the same way. And I think what happened was, I think everybody has the Robert Griffin fear.
Mm-hmm.
Man, we've got our next guy. He's on his feet. He's doing this. And then year two, knees gone. Oh, my God. Like, am I missing that, or am I pretty close on that?
No, you're not wrong. And what you saw with – I'll talk about Chicago. You got Trubisky, but you had a coach who wasn't exactly offensive forward, right?
No.
Right. So when you got rid of him and you brought in the younger coach, and what was he talked about? Oh, this is Andy Reid guy, and he's this and he's that. He was never a coordinator. And when he was in Kansas City, he went from Alex Smith to Pat Mahomes. Okay.
Yeah.
That's a pretty easy job for a quarterback.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So he didn't exactly groom anybody. And you're expecting him to groom Mitch Trubisky. Well, that didn't happen. Then you bring in Justin Fields. Well, he's going to groom Fields. He didn't groom Trubisky. So he didn't want Fields. But you got Fields because you needed him. Okay. And so he gets there, and he doesn't do the job, of course. He kept playing yo-yo with Fields and Andy Dalton.
Yeah, Dalton.
Yeah. So
Red Rocket.
You finally move on, and you get Eberflus. Well, Eberflus is a defensive guy. So you're relying on offensive guys who don't exactly cultivate quarterbacks to try and teach Justin Fields. Wasn't working. And then when he finally started to pick up some momentum, you go, okay, well, Eberflus is in a lame duck season. Instead of linking them together, y'all are going to save each other's job. You say we're going to move on from Justin Fields and draft a rookie with a lame duck head coach. So now you've put the rookie in this tough situation because now he's married to a coach whose job is pretty much gone. And you've moved on from Justin Fields. So fortunately for him, he landed somewhere where he got a good look. He got a good contract this year. We'll see what happens with him in New York. But it's that kind of thing. We talk about Cleveland. Okay, we've seen Cleveland do this to quarterback after quarterback.
Right.
Remember DeShone Kizer, right? Who was a young kid who left Notre Dame too soon because, plain and simple, he couldn't deal with the head coach that's now down at LSU that can't see the national championship because that guy was a taskmaster, and every time he did anything, he yelled at him, right? So he goes into the draft. He was considered possibly a first-round pick. And what ruined him? His head coach in college goes, he's not ready. Well, that's all the NFL needed to hear. Now he's not a day one pick anymore. So your college coach doesn't even back you. Even though he goes, I'll go to the draft with you. Too late. The damage is done. And he goes to Cleveland at a time where the offensive coordinator and the head coach don't get along. The head coach wasn't a great head coach for, as far as, excuse me, he wasn't a great head coach. He was a good coordinator, wasn't a great head coach, right? And he wasn't exactly great at mentoring young quarterbacks. He was great when he had Carson Palmer, wasn't great with anybody else, right? So you turn around and you look at it and go, what have they done since then? You keep seeing these guys come in. They're hot young guys. You could tell the guys that could coach any quarterback. Look at the guy in LA. He's had a bunch of quarterbacks since Matt Stafford got hurt, and they all seem to somehow perform at least one game or two when they need him. This guy in Cleveland can't seem to win now all of a sudden. He got no quarterback. Deshaun Watson hurt. This guy's hurt. He got Flacco to win. And then after that, last year you saw it happen, right? They had everybody coming through there. They couldn't win, right? So if he's a true quarterback guru, if we keep throwing this title around guru, as a coach, when I was a coordinator, I won games with any quarterback I could find because plain and simple, my job was to win, to score points. If I got to change my game, my system, if my system only focuses on a pocket passer who can manage the field, I'm screwed if that guy goes down. The RG3 situation, the guy that came into a situation where the owner wanted him and the head coach and the OC did, right? And I said that about Shanahan then, and people didn't believe me. Oh, no. Then just look at the Trey Lance situation. The same thing just happened, right? He got Trey Lance. Well, yeah, he's going to be our future. You had Jimmy G, so he didn't play. When Jimmy G got hurt and he got hurt, and then Brock Purdy comes in, and Brock Purdy's is that Kirk Cousins type of quarterback, right? That they're almost similar in platform and how they play, which is right up his alley. He all of a sudden didn't need Trey Lance anymore, right? So Trey Lance got thrown to the garbage. It's always that kind of guy who only has a certain kind he can win with is the guy that I don't want as a coach because you're not always guaranteed to have that guy. Not every quarterback is the same style. Sometimes the guy we see as talented is a different style. Can you coach him? Can you adapt to what he does? If you can't do that, then why are you here? Why are we considering you a guru? And that's part of what these problem is. These guys are getting called hot candidates for head coaching jobs, but they are limited coaches. Limited coaches produce limited players.
So now that you say that, this just dug some mine, and Chad will appreciate this. So I watched Ben Johnson's press conference today.
Mm-hmm.
This is how he described to the media how Caleb Williams' session went. We were sloppy at times. We've got to pay more attention to details. We've got to do this. And this is how he described Tyson Bagent's session. Sharp. The guy is in here all the time. He gets after it and he's on top of things and da. Well, I'm hearing this and I'm just like, wait a second. You had the number one pick in Caleb Williams, and you're talking negative. Then the backup comes in. They talk about the backup, and he's like, "Oh yeah, he's detailed, he's sharp, and he's." I'm like, that doesn't breed a lot of confidence in my mind as a Bears fan when your head coach. Now, there may be an understanding in that locker room, like Ben Johnson may have went to Caleb Williams and says, "Listen, I'm gonna be hard on you, man. Like, I'm going to be up your butt. Like, you got, So maybe that we don't understand that part of it. But just as a fan listening to the press conference, I'm like, this is not a ringing endorsement of your starting quarterback. Like, what are we doing here? And I think you hit the nail on the head. A guy is only a quarterback guru when he gets his guy. But then do you think, let's just say in the Bears case, and obviously Eberflus, whatever, but if Ben Johnson says, my guy is this is what I'm looking for in a quarterback, but on your board and everybody else's board, it says it's this guy is the number one pick.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel that Chicago is going to pass that guy, even though Ben Johnson has already said, this is my kind of quarterback? Does the team have balls enough to not take Caleb Williams or Jaden Daniels because he doesn't fit the mold, and Ben Johnson says, give me Bo Nix? Or do you feel teams are pressured because of everybody says this is the number one guy? Everybody says, do you think that happens a little bit?
Sometimes, not often. Most times teams are true to their board. There's a lot of times you can predict they don't like that kind of quarterback. They're going to take this, right? Sometimes you look at it and go, they're going to be true to it and say, you know what, they have that guy higher. They like him that much more. They're going to take him, regardless of how we feel about him. As much as on being on the media side, I think I got a good feel for teams. They have ways of surprising you sometimes. Like I said, I thought looking at, Drake May in that class that let me go back. I just want to make sure I got the names right. I thought that Penix might have gone before May. And I had him ahead of May, but May went ahead. And a lot of the media guys, there were some guys that, May was the best one. We saw he wasn't the best one. He's good, but he wasn't the best one. Right? We on the media side think we have it all figured out. The NFL has their own way of doing things. Each 32 teams wants to do it their way. You can get a good feel for how some GMs think. Sometimes they surprise you. And a lot of the times you think that you've got it figured out based on what they've done in previous drafts, based on what they've signed. I can look at certain coaches, being a coach, and understand how a coach thinks and goes, he likes this kind of quarterback. Why? Because every time I see him at a team and he has success with this kind of quarterback. That's what he wants. That's how his offense performs. A guy like Mike Leach could perform with anybody. Like Mike Leach was a guru. Okay.
Right.
You look at Minshew. Everybody loves him. In the NFL, he's been a journeyman. Right? What he was, That's what I projected him to be, a journeyman. In college, Gardner Minshew was lighting it up when he was with Mike Leach, right? Because he fit. Mike Leach knew how to get the best out of any quarterback he had, right? That's just Mike Leach, right? There are guys in the NFL that have some amazing talent at quarterback, and they can only get talent. They can only get production out of one guy. Why is that? Bill Parcells. Everybody loves Bill Parcells. He's a Hall of Famer. Bill Parcells had a certain kind of quarterback, right? And it was that kind of quarterback is what he wanted, right? He loved Vinny Testaverde. That was his prototypical type of quarterback, and he could take Vinny Testaverde anywhere but Dallas and get production out of him, right? So, but that was his kind of guy. Phil Simms was that kind of guy, He had Jeff Hostetler, won a Super Bowl with him, but that was the only time he could get production out of Jeff Hostetler, right? So some guys are just that kind of guy. When he had anybody else with the Jets other than Testaverde, he couldn't get production out of him, although he picked them, right? They weren't the same kind of guy as what he liked and had. So there's coaches that are just that way. They may be good when they have everything that they like and need in place, but when you get that one piece that's different and you can't adjust to make that guy's skill set work for you, you're an average coach. And like I said, average coaches get average production from their players because you are not going to put them in the best situation where they can showcase their skills on a frequent basis. And that's what you're getting with some of these coaches. I like this kind of quarterback. And you get him, and he either gets hurt or he gets old. You got to move on from him. and you don't have that kind of guy behind him, and you can't figure out how to get this guy to be productive, and then all of a sudden you're worried about your job, or you're trying to chase him off to get the guy you think that you want because it wouldn't work with this guy. It happens all the time. We're seeing guys, you draft a guy the year before. I got a prime example, Josh Rosen. Did Josh Rosen get a fair shot in the NFL? Absolutely not. He got drafted in the first round by Arizona with a coach that they fired the year after they drafted him, and they brought in a coach that had no interest in keeping Josh Rosen around. And he already knew when he got there, Kyler Murray's my guy. We got the first pick. Kyler Murray's my guy. There was never any doubt Kyler Murray was not going to Arizona that year. You already had Josh Rosen. You didn't even give the kid a shot. His career was never the same after that. Not that he had a great, stellar first year in Arizona. The team was a mess. It was a bloody shamble. But you know what? It would have been great if your coach had faith in you to give you a chance to produce. As a player, there's nothing worse than knowing that the coach doesn't want you there. Okay, you're always going to be fighting against your opponent and your own coach. That is the worst thing that you can have in a locker room. I've been in that situation. I've been an all-star player, and the coach didn't want me. And guess what? Every year, he brought in cornerbacks to replace me. I beat him out, and he still wanted to replace me. Right? Why? Because plain and simple, I wasn't the guy he wanted. Regardless how good I wasn't his guy. He wanted a certain kind of guy, and I wasn't it. And then guess what? In the NFL, you have that there.
Right. So we would be remiss. I know Ed's listening. And we've debated this on the show. And I think Chad and I have the same opinion. I don't know where KJ stands on this, but we're going to get your opinion. JJ McCarthy in Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, see, Chad's laughing. He knows exactly where I'm going with this. Here's how I see JJ McCarthy. And if I'm wrong, you tell me I'm wrong. He's at Penn State. Michigan. Jesus,
Mm-hmm.
Penn State. I'm going to the Penn State game. At Michigan, there in the Penn State game, he didn't even attempt to throw, and they waxed Penn State. I mean, the amount of throws that he didn't have to make in college to be successful and win a national title and things like that. I look at JJ McCarthy as being of those guys that were drafted last year. Williams, Nix, May, Daniels, McCarthy, all those guys. McCarthy is the biggest question mark to me because of where he came from. He did not come from an offense under Jim Harbaugh in Michigan that is a more NFL style offense where you got to win some games with your arms, JJ. It was Hut, hand it off. Hut, pitch it over there. More so than having to win with his arm.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you see McCarthy, and where do you believe Ed's high on him? He's like, I'm high on him because I have to be. I see him. I don't see him coming in and being ready to be an NFL quarterback for that reason. Where are you on JJ McCarthy?
JJ McCarthy in his draft class was my QB7. Okay. So there were 6 quarterbacks ahead of him. We've talked about those 6 already, right? He was the next one. Okay. So what I like about JJ McCarthy are the intangibles, intelligence, the motor, the fight. Right? The guy's got a heart like a lion. There's things not to love about JJ McCarthy, like the decision making. He doesn't always make the greatest decisions with the football. When he gets consistent pressure, he breaks down in the pocket. Ball placement can be off at times. So there were some fundamental things that I liked about JJ. And I didn't love about him, right? Which is why he was my QB7. You know, my thing about JJ McCarthy is he's kind of been done a disservice, right? You know what the disservice was? He had success and then got hurt, right? He comes out last year in the preseason game, throws the big whopping touchdown on the broken coverage. Everybody goes nuts. Oh, my God. And they're ready to anoint them right now. And then next you know, he tears up his knee and you don't see him the rest of the year, right? So that's the only sample size we have is J.J. McCarthy throwing this touchdown and then getting hurt. So what he's coming into this year is, well, kid, we saw enough of you last year. You're the franchise this year. Because we had some success with Sam Darnold last year, and he went to get rich, and we weren't paying him, thank God. I would think that would have been a mistake if they kept him. But nevertheless, it's your team now. He's healthy, but he's now got to learn how to be an NFL quarterback in year 2 with no real year 1 experience. That's hard to do, okay? It's hard enough to do it when you've had 18 years or 17 games as a rookie to play and take your lumps. It's even harder to go out there with no rookie year and then to go out there year 2 and get it done. Sometimes if you're practicing all year, that's one thing. But when you're hurt, you got to heal and rehab and do all that stuff, sit in on meetings, but you're not throwing the football around and getting game time experience or at least practice reps, meaningful practice reps. That's hard to do.
Right.
So you're going to see a lot more things that you didn't see in college, okay? The speed of the game is going to be different. You've been away from it for a year, so now you got to get adjusted to that. And you're going to be doing this as the starter, not the backup. So it can take a rookie a long time to win a game. Troy Aikman didn't win his first game till his second year, So we've had success with rookies early, and then we've had some who've taken their time. I think they are in a good position to make it easier on them. They run the football very well. They have talent on the outside. They have a pretty good offensive line. So I think he'll be okay as long as as long as you keep the Sam Darnold formula, okay? And everybody knows what the Sam Darnold formula is. Run the football, play good defense, protect them, don't force them to throw the ball too much. If you could do that with the Sam Darnold formula, you can win with J.J. McCarthy.
All right, KJ, this is what we got here.
That makes sense. No, I think
Carlos wants to hear what KJ's got to say about
Jeff
it.
makes a good point. You're essentially forcing him to condense his progress or improvement over one season instead of arguably your theoretical 2. So it's a matter of where your traditional rookie QB gets to go in and, okay, from game to game, you can see a marginal or measurable improvement. JJ is probably going to have to go, okay, every time I go back to sit down on the bench between series, I got to go back out, and the next series has got to be better than the last, which is generally true always, but even more so, I think, to this point that he's got literally this year to put up or shut up. So that's a lot of pressure, no doubt, for especially a guy coming off of a major injury. I would not wish that upon many players.
We've seen people throw the bus label around after 3 games. It's like they give the guy a chance.
Yeah.
That's the biggest problem, I think. And I understand Minnesota Viking fans are feeling that. Jefferson, Addison, Hawkinson. I mean, they have the weapons. If J.J. McCarthy comes out and proverbially craps the bed, they're going to be burning stuff down. You know what I mean? Because to Jeff's point, Sam Darnold did it. And who's Sam Darnold? He was a bust. But Sam Darnold did it. Now we got this first-round pick, J.J. McCarthy. And, the pressure, I think, and Jeff, you're correct on this, is going to be amplified. There's not going to be any room for error. We're not going to allow you to go 1-5 to get your feet wet.
He needs Adam Thielen to return to his Case Keenum year level of form and freaking go lights out.
Yeah.
Throw everything to me. I'll catch it all.
Just throw it up. I got it. Just throw it up. I got this. No problem. But I do think that this is probably the most pressure that a young quarterback, can't call him a rookie anymore technically, but going into his first full season, that I think you're probably going to see, because his case is unique. He did make that great throw. And then I think what was the second series, he blows his knee out or something. It was like, you see this great pass, you're like, oh, he's the man. And he blows his knee, done for the year, and you're like, whoa, what happened? But now, because Sam Darnold, and I agree with you, they shouldn't have paid him, but because he did what he did with virtually the offense intact, well, JJ's better than Sam. We're going to be 15-2. I don't think that's realistic, and I hate to crap in Minnesota Viking fans' Wheaties, but I mean, because I don't have near as much hatred for Minnesota as I do Green Bay. I mean, I can't, you can talk to Minnesota fans. My dad's a Minnesota fan. I root for the Vikings if they're not playing the Bears, whatever. But I would not root for the Packers if they were if the NFL was one team and it was only Green Bay. I would not root for the Packers.
Ugh. You just made me vomit in my mouth. I couldn't do anything.
Sorry.
For their franchise, they did the smart thing. They didn't re-sign Sam Darnold. I personally wanted them to pay Sam Darnold $50 million to stay there and play quarterback. Because that was the wrong thing to do, and that's what I wanted them to do.
I believe this is Ed as well.
Edward, shut up. You got something to say? Get in here. But I mean, good luck to the kid. I mean, he's rehabbed all year. I brought this up last week. I was talking to, of course, I'm here in Iowa, so you throw a stick and you hit 5 idiots wearing purple and colored yellow. So he said, well, he was in that film room all season long studying with them. I'm like, nah, he was in rehab, dude. There's probably a good chance he maybe wasn't even in Minnesota doing the rehab. Probably was someplace else. I mean, They don't spend much time in the meetings when you're rehabbing from a major injury like that. And he's like, what? No, you're just rehabbing and you go to the meetings. No, you don't. Players talk about the worst thing about being hurt is you're not around the guys and you're not around the meetings and you don't get to spend time with them. Chances are he spent very little time in meetings. I mean, I'm not such a big – I don't think not throwing many passes in college was such a big deal. I mean, quarterbacks in the 60s and 70s and then even in the 80s, maybe threw 15 passes a game, and they go on to win Super Bowls and go in the Hall of Fame. I don't
throwing 15 to 20 a game.
That's not that big of a deal, but I just think, I mean, it's Minnesota, so he's going to do enough to make people think he's going to do something, and then he's going to shit the bed. Disappoint them all. And then we've got to talk. Ed's on a chair with a rope slung over a pipe and trying to put it over his head. And we're like, get on, Ed. Don't do this.
Don't do it, Ed. No.
Don't do it, Ed.
The funniest thing, and Jeff, I wish you could have been on the show that night. We're doing a live show, but man, there is we were doing half truths, and then all of a sudden it was like news would come over our phones. We're like, wait a second. The Minnesota Vikings just signed Sam Darnold, and Ed lost his ever-loving mind. That's when he first coined the term Sam frickin' Darnold. Well, then the season gets going. Minnesota kind of starts rolling a little bit. And then all of a sudden he's putting pictures of Sam Darnold that looks like Christ.
Like he's Jesus.
And it's like, and we have to put up with that all year. And they truck on down to a 14-3 record. And then what do? What Minnesota always does.
So
they find a way. Go ahead, KJ.
You're saying
everything I told Ed.
What?
Go ahead, KJ. Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead, KJ.
I was going to say, so you're saying Ed was acting like a Minnesota fan, similar to how Rex Grossman performed for the Chicago Bears years ago.
Yes, he did. Surprisingly, Sexy Rexy took us to a Super Bowl. Yes. And if it was not if it was not for the rain.
That was the most stressful season. I wasn't even a Bears fan. Just watching those games, I was like, this guy was killing it last week. What the F is going on? Like every
If
week.
it wasn't for the rain, I'm telling you right now, I can still feel the exhilaration when Indianapolis kicked off and Devin Hester ran it back. I was just like, this is going to happen.
Yeah.
And then the rain starts dumping on the field, and old Peyton Manning just does enough. And I'm like, it takes away our deep game. It just killed us.
But what was great about last year, Jeff?
Grossman takes you guys to a Super Bowl, but Jay Cutler could never get you there.
Which is crazy to me.
That's
crazy.
Because Jay was busy smoking heaters on the sidelines instead of being in the game.
Listen, Jay Cutler used to drive me absolutely bonkers because he could throw a touchdown, and this is Jay Cutler.
He didn't care.
He could throw an interception, and this was Jay Cutler.
Yeah, he didn't care.
I'm like, it's okay to show some emotion. Like,
Well, the same with Lovey. Lovey was the same way.
yeah,
Lovey drove me nuts.
But
He was a
Lovey
stale piece of toast.
was a Dungy disciple. Dungy was like that.
100%.
Yeah.
Dungy, yes. Dungy free.
Like that.
Yep.
You know,
Yeah, but
Dungy
Dungy also Dungy was very stoic, but he did have personality.
Yeah.
Lovey had no personality whatsoever.
I'll answer Owen's question, Eric. It's a complete sidebar from our topic right now. But
I have not heard, but have you?
I hate to break your bubble, buddy, but no team is going to Cali until the UF creates some stability. So just FYI, don't get your hopes up.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking too. But so yeah, I mean, it is surprising to me. You know, I guess if I was a Viking fan, having never won a Super Bowl, and if I was a Viking fan of like 52 years, Ed, I wouldn't be getting my hopes too high because Minnesota has a habit of propping you up, and then like an Indiana Jones, that guy comes in and he puts their hand and then rips their heart out of their chest.
I was the guy who bought Super Bowl tickets after Case Keenum pulled off the Minnesota Miracle.
Yep.
Thankfully, I got to watch Foles pull off an upset, but all for naught in the grand scheme of things. So I can attest to that.
Yeah.
Chad?
It's one of the good things about having so many Viking fans around is that they just get disappointed every year and it's a mess and they cry and they weep and I just go, well, as a Bears fan, I expected this crap. But you guys had all kinds of promise and I told you weren't going to do it, and they don't. And Ed gets his hopes up every year. He finds excuses. He's like a Cowboy fan, really. I mean, they're going to win the Super Bowl every year. They're the greatest team ever. Every player they have is the best. And then
there's not many Cowboy fans like that now.
That's true.
Yeah.
You know,
most of them are the most dreadful fans I've ever seen. They just bitter, and I don't understand. Jet fans have a reason to be bitter. Cowboy fans have no reason to be bitter.
If Jeff was not on the show tonight, this is what the show would have went like, Jeff. Let's just Dallas Cowboys go, boys. Like, they are an absolute dumpster fire. This Micah Parsons thing, Jerry Jones today, watching him, you know, because he's the only GM that loves to get his face and his voice out there.
He's
says,
an old
listen,
man. Old men like to talk.
Yeah, it's like he goes off on this rant about when I bought the Cowboys, it was a handshake deal. And then they took care of the paperwork afterward, but it was a handshake. And I'm assuming he was referring to the handshake deal they had with Micah Parsons.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, listen, dude, if I was worth $10 billion or whatever Jerry Jones is worth, and somebody said, hey, and Jeff and I were going into business, and Jeff says, hey, it's going to take us $2 million to get this off the ground. And I shook your hand and I'm worth $10 billion. $2 million to me is nothing, Jeff. If it's $3 million, don't care. I like the idea. We're going to go. But Micah Parsons is on the other side of that.
Mm-hmm.
When they handshake deal on whatever they agreed to, Dallas is the one that sat around and didn't get the paperwork done. However that looks. Didn't do this, didn't do that, twiddling their thumbs. And all of a sudden, this guy gets signed and the number goes to here. And then this guy gets signed and the number goes to here. I don't blame Micah Parsons one bit for saying, whoa, the game has changed. I'm better than that guy, and he got X. Show me where I signed. If I was Micah Parsons, I'm doing the same damn thing. Show me where I signed that to that dollar amount. If I didn't, then guess what? Here's where we're at today. And Jerry's acting like in the interview today that I watched, it was like he's standing there like a preacher at the pulpit taking the high ground like, I'm the one that has been wronged. Like, ugh.
Well, the funny part with this situation is, you know who Micah Parsons' agent is, right?
Is it Rosenhaus?
No.
Who is
Trust
it?
me, if it was Rosenhaus, this deal would have been done.
Who is it?
His name is David Mogetta. He is the agent that got the Deshaun Watson deal done.
Oh, jeez. Oh. Hey, wait.
He's a
dude's
genius.
He's
He's a genius. He's a guru. He's a guru.
When you are that dude who owners believe fleeced an NFL team out of a fully guaranteed contract for a player they didn't think was worth a fully guaranteed, they don't trust you. So while they have a handshake deal they had in place, it was up to them to get in touch with him and start to finalize the
right.
deal. They don't trust him, which is why he had to meet with Micah.
That makes no
The
sense.
principal negotiator for the Cowboys for 20 years now has been Stephen Jones, not Jerry.
Right.
So everybody, when the contract talks, they go, Jerry. Stephen has been negotiating these contracts for 20 years. Stephen is a shrewder businessman when it comes to money than Jerry. Jerry will spend money to do anything he wants to do. When Jerry was principal negotiator, the worst contract negotiation he had was Emmitt Smith. After that, Michael Irvin got his deal early. Aikman got his deal early. Anybody they need to sign after that, any trade they need to make, Jerry Jones made it happen. When Steven got involved, you started hearing about more and more of these guys dragging their feet. Okay? When Tony Romo got his money the first time, that they almost went to the end of the season and let him go to free agency. It was Jerry that said we can't let him get there because Steven was going to drag it out. Okay, so it's a different time now where Steven does most of the negotiating and Jerry, like he did with Des Bryant, sat down and worked it out. Same thing he did with Tank Lawrence when Tank's agent and Steven couldn't hash out the deal. Jerry and the player sat down. That's been his way of kind of getting it done without Steven and them getting it done. Heaven forbid, Cowboy fans, you're mad now. Wait till Jerry dies. Wait till you see those negotiations. So, but what's making them dig in is, one, they don't trust the agent. Two, they don't have to sign Micah right now. He's on the 5th-year option, and they have 2 franchise tag years behind it. So if they're not happy with the deal, they don't have to sign it. They don't have to offer it. We can just wait till and Micah is an emotional guy, so he's getting frustrated. There's nothing to get emotional about. Play it out. You're getting $24 million this year. And you know what happens? If they tag you, you have more leverage next year because you don't have to sign the tag till July. So you can legally sit out, not get fined.
Oh, right.
So,
right there.
right? So there is more leverage next year than he has right now. If he's sitting out now, he's getting fined. If he sits out regular season games, he loses game checks. All right. he is under contract for one more year. And that's what Jerry keeps reiterating. He is under contract, so he doesn't have the leverage. The only leverage he has right now is to say, I'm disgruntled. I want to be traded. But
Right.
you still have to be there, because if you're not in training camp, you're fined heavier. At least he's there, so he's holding in. So he's not practicing, but he's there. But once you get to game day in the regular season, and Jerry's telling you, I don't expect him to play week 1. If he's dug in and I'm dug in, I don't expect him to play week 1. He's going to lose a game check. And Jerry's counting on that, saying, once you lose that first game check, you're going to like, you know what? I'm going to play out the rest of the season because I want to make my money. Because he's not a veteran who's had a big contract already. People talked about this last year with Garrett, Myles Garrett. Oh, he pulled that. Myles Garrett was already past his rookie deal. He was drafted in 17. This is 2025. He's well past his rookie deal. He's made money between then and now. Micah Parsons is on his rookie deal. He's getting to the biggest part of it, which is that 5th-year option. So while he technically can sit this year out because he's got some money, it's a lot better to sit on $24 million and sit out and miss a couple of game checks. But you got to get the $24 million this year. So that's what Jerry's banking on. So when people go, why is he being stubborn? Because he knows the leverage of the deal. Is it frustrating to hear Jerry go out there and talk every day? Absolutely. Cowboy fans wanted to put a muzzle on that man for 25 years, and it hasn't happened yet.
No.
But the fact of the matter is, in this situation, he's not totally wrong. At the end of the day, the team still has to do what's best for the team, and they have to find a middle ground that it fits both sides. They don't trust this agent is going to do that. That's why they have not called him. So that's why this deal is taking longer, because they're going to make this dude wait until they feel they have enough leverage that this dude will work with them on a deal that's going to fit them. They know he's going to do what's best for Micah Parsons. He already did it for Deshaun Watson and the whole league. 31 owners hated that deal when it was done. I don't know if the owner of the Browns hated it at the time. I know he hates it now, but at the time, 31 owners, when Cleveland announced that Deshaun Watson deal, you better believe Jerry Jones was one of them going, what the hell are the Browns doing? Why are we giving this dude a fully guaranteed $200 million contract? You know what that's going to do to us? The same reason why so many second-round picks this year sat out, because guess what? Cincinnati guaranteed their number 2, the second-round draft pick, a fully guaranteed contract. For the first time, a second-round pick got a fully guaranteed contract. The owners were pissed. Okay, so all of these second-round picks were held up because every agent now comes up going, "Hey, fully guaranteed, fully guaranteed." Once that precedent is set, everybody wants to cash in on it. So because they know this is the guy that cashed in on that deal, we're going to play hardball with him because we can't let him take advantage of us like he did in Cleveland. And a prideful bunch like the Joneses are going to make sure they dig in when they have leverage.
Right. Okay. As it is, every time Jeff comes on, we could make this a 4-hour show because I love talking football with all the information Jeff has, and it's great conversation. But it's 10:18, and Ed usually runs till 10:20. So we got to be out of here by 10:20. So, Jeff, thank you. It was a great show, fellas.
Thanks, Jeff.
And as always, we will see you next Wednesday, 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. See you later.
And that's the bottom line.